The Yankees aren't making the playoffs, especially the AL East. It's really left to 3 teams. I don't even think the Red Sox are making the playoffs this year. It's Toronto, Baltimore, and Tampa. It's really Baltimore and Tampa in the AL East.
Right.
Toronto still can sneak into the playoffs, and what Seattle's done so far in the second half. The Yankees, I love that Aaron Boone is playing the youngsters. I love that Brian Cashman is calling youngsters up early and seeing what they have with them, because then you can decide in the offseason, where do you go in free agency? Do you go into the season next year as Jason Dominguez as your starting center fielder, Austin Wells is your starting catcher, Volpe starting shortstop, and Pereza your starting third baseman or second baseman? The Yankees have an opportunity now where they can start to figure out what this roster is going to be moving into next year, where maybe they need to add another offensive outfielder, or maybe they need to trade a Giancarlo Stanton to free up some space where they can bring in 2 good players for the price of 1. The Yankees have had a very bad season, and when you place Harrison Bader, who, when he is on the field, he was a pretty good player for the Yankees. When you place him on waivers, it only tells you one thing. They don't believe, even in the position that they are right now, with still a lot of baseball left, that they're going to make the playoffs. So they gave up Donaldson. They should have given up on him a long time ago. The guy stinks.
Oh, now Milwaukee's interested in him after they couldn't trade for Pete Alonso.
Watch him go to Milwaukee and become the power hitter that he was. He'll go on a hot streak. He'll hit 10 home runs. Look at what Gary Sanchez did with the Padres. So much stress, so much pressure. And Brian Cashman, I'm going to say this, and I never thought I would say this. Maybe the Yankees need to look in the offseason of moving on from Brian Cashman. I just don't think the interviews that I've heard from Brian Cashman, he's taking full responsibility enough on where this team was supposed to be this year and what this team really hasn't produced. You were in the ALCS last year, and now you're not even going to make the playoffs, and you could be under 500 for the first time in over 30 years. To me, that's alarming. If they were over 500 this year, like I believe they were going to be, Brian Cashman should come back. If they're under 500 this year, and this is the New York Yankees, they don't win 85 games, even with the roster that they have, it is alarming. You spent as much as you did on Rodon. Garrett Cole should win the Cy Young this year. He's been fantastic all season long. That's the only thing that's been good for the New York Yankees all season long. Rodon has not looked good, but he's not healthy. So maybe the Yankees need to move on from Brian Cashman and start over. Bring in a guy, a fresh guy that can help this team grow, help this farm system, which is one of the worst farm systems now in baseball.
Right, and you see what the Mets did trading all those guys at the trade deadline too, and the Yankees maybe have started to done that approach too, waiving Harrison Bader, getting rid of Donaldson. That's going to be a horrible contract. Don't be surprised if there's other veterans that are moved too, because you have to make room for these youngsters. You take advantage of the upside that could come, especially the league now, a lot of young teams emerging the way they are. Jason Dominguez, his stats in AAA were very good.
The last 8 games, he's been fantastic. Right. Over the last month, he's been fantastic. In the beginning of the year, he looked horrible, but he's figuring things out, and he's a switch hitter, power hitter. They expected this kid to be a star in the league. If he turns into the player that they believed he was going to be after giving him the money that they did when he was 16 years old, and Aaron Judge is still out there, and then maybe Pineda, the left fielder of the future, your outfield is pretty much set up in the next 5 years. Then you just have to worry about the infield. Get some power at third base, get some power at first base, and move on.
The older hitting trend is really going away too, and a lot of the good teams that have done well this year, mostly younger lineups too, and I think the Yankees are realizing that too. Play the guys that have more upside. You're going to have the big contracts anyway. You're still going to be stuck with Judge. If you're not able to trade Stanton, you'll be stuck with him. You still have to funnel around those guys, and again, you want guys that can play around Judge and maybe could strive earlier in their career because of that.
I want to see Dominguez. This is the guy that I've been waiting for. He's finally going to step on a baseball field. He has a chance to prove himself. Switch hitting, power hitter, and they believed when they brought him in that he was the next big star in the majors. And at one point, he was one of the best prospects in all of baseball. He fell off. Volpe became their number one, and has been pretty good this year. He hasn't hit for average, but I think that'll change next year. Derek Jeter didn't hit for average his first season when he came into the league. I expect Volpe to be even better this year, and I think he's going to hit 20 home runs this year. For a shortstop, that's a lot, and he's going to give you about 70, 75 RBIs. That's what you want from your shortstop. If he's a shutdown defender, which Volpe is, and he could steal about 30 bases a year, I think Volpe could be a sensational player. It doesn't look like Aaron Boone is going anywhere, as Brian Cashman came out and said that he's not getting rid of Aaron Boone. I'm very eager to see what the Yankees are going to do in the offseason. There is no chance the Yankees get Ohtani. The Yankees could offer whatever he wants. He's not going to the Yankees. He's not going to the Mets. He's staying on the West Coast, and he's not pitching next year. So do you want to pay a guy who is already going to make between $550 and $600 million? He is going to make that money, even with Tommy Johns.
You could always look at the Yankees from this perspective and all the players that they waived, and you could just say, yeah, it does look bad, but at least you're not the Angels, who have waived 5 players now, and 2 of them they just traded for at this trade deadline.